Hey guys, OGalbina here, and in the next couple of days we are going to be getting the Teal Mask DLC, and today I wanted to talk with you guys about the Pokemon that are going to be coming back in said DLC, and the implications that they have on the Pokemon Draft League metagame. If you guys don't know what Pokemon Draft League is, go check out the channel. We have a million videos on what Draft League is, Draft League battles, Draft League games, discussion videos. There's so many. Please go check out everything on the channel. And if you enjoy what you see, go ahead and sub. We're on our way to 3,000, and I'd really appreciate if you help us out along that journey. And drop a like on this video. But yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into it. I'm not really doing like a top 10 for this, or, you know, like these are the 5 best, or these are the 15 best, you know. I'm kind of just going through the Pokemon that excite me, the Pokemon that I'm really happy that are coming back because of how they've done in past metagames, how I think they'll function in this metagame, and things like that. We're really just kind of starting in Gen 1 and going from there. But yeah, we can actually start off with what's on screen, what's going to be probably the Pokemon I'm personally most excited to see come back, and that is Godclef, Big Clefable. I am so excited that we have a real fairy type in this metagame. We really don't have that many of them. There's maybe 2 or 3 actual genuinely good defensive fairies. I think Sylveon is great. I think Ozzy was great defensively and offensively. But other than that, when it comes to defensive fairies, the rest of them really don't, you know, come to par for me. And this thing is going to fill a huge gap in this metagame. It has 2 incredible abilities in Magikarp and Unaware. It has an insane move pool. Now, granted, we don't know exactly what it's going to get in Scarlet and Violet. For example, it probably won't have Soft Boiled as a form of recovery. But it's not as big of a deal because they nerfed pretty much all recovery PP down to 8, so Moonlight is really just as good outside of weather implications and things like that, and Rain isn't even that common, so not the biggest deal in the world. But this thing is a jack of all trades, master of none. Despite its very mediocre stat spread, this Pokemon does so much for so many different teams at the same time. It's insane. It can be physically defensive or especially defensive very well, and especially in conjunction with those great defensive abilities. Magikarp not only meaning that it doesn't take status damage or anything like that, but it's also not going to take hazard damage, which is incredible. And Unaware being a really good anti-offense tool in a generation where there's so much setup everywhere. So I really like this aspect of Clef. It really makes it absolutely obnoxious to deal with. You can also go more offensive. Go Magikarp. Life Orb is a very viable option with this crazy Generation 1 coverage that you see. Excuse me. It's a very solid stealth rocker. It spreads status with Thunder Wave. It had teleport last generation. It probably won't have it this generation, but it used to be a great momentum grabber. It could pass really solid wishes. It could Calm Mind and Sweep. It really could do so much. Encore is a great tool on Clef. This Pokemon is so unbelievably good at, you know, gluing a solid team together, and that's what it's going to do this generation, just like it's always done. Next up, we have Ninetales Alola. Now, I've never been big on Ninetales Alola myself, just because I don't like the Hail archetype. I don't like the defensive typing of, you know, Ice and Fairy. I don't like the Rock's weakness, and I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming in order to get that Aurora Veil set up. However, I think this generation is pretty interesting to see how this thing will work with the change to the Hail weather and it being snow now, and it giving that, you know, those Ice types a defense boost. Honestly, it makes this thing a little bit better. Now, you're still probably not going to take on those steel type attacks or anything like that, but you might live a poison jab pretty comfortably. You're definitely going to live close combats pretty comfortably even after rocks, and especially once you set up that Aurora Veil, you're going to be really bulky. You have a really solid Spadef stat as well. This thing is going to be great with just, you know, that light clay, not light ball, he's not Pikachu, light clay, and then you just go like, you know, Aurora Veil, you go like Blizzard, and then Moonblast, and then you can go some combination of Encore, or some kind of 4th move, or whatever it may be. Even just like a random Ice Shard or a Nasty Plot or something like that. This thing can be really potent and against a lot of teams, and it can really set up offense to put them in a really good spot. And hell, it could even make, you know, a lot of, like, you know, potential Ice types really scary. This thing plus Bundle, this thing plus Backs seems really cool. Getting Veil plus Backs plus defense boost on Backs and setting up, oh my god, that's going to be terrifying. So I think Ninetales is going to be better this generation than it was last generation. I think that's a pretty lukewarm take, but I'm excited to see how it goes. Maybe I'll end up trying it and actually enjoying it this gen. Who knows? Then we have Weezing. This is a pretty interesting one because you see I don't have Galar Weezing here. I don't like Galar Weezing because it's usually typically very overpriced. But as for Weezing, I love this thing as a low tier, like fighting resist, physically defensive check. Do a lot of things. It's very anti-meta. Poison with levitate is obviously a great combination. The neutralizing grass is a good secondary ability. So I really like that aspect of it. It sets up T-spikes. It, spreads Will-O-Wisp. It has Flamethrower plus, Sludge Bomb, which is solid neutral coverage to do a lot. It also has, like, random Thunderbolt and even Taunt and things like that. You can Memento to set up the rest of your team. You can Haze to stop stat boost. You can even Destiny Bond. This thing has a lot of really cool tools that I think a lot of people, tend to sleep on, but I don't know. I feel like people who've been playing the draft for a long time know how good regular Weezing is that low tier, like bulky poison, physically defensive check into a lot of things, and it can be really, really obnoxious into a lot of things. I think like neutralizing gas Weezing into like Chin Pow is going to be a really solid check, because then no more Sword of Ruin and you take no damage because you're hella physically defensive. I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. I like Weezing a lot. Next, we got Big Lax, baby. Another Pokemon I'm so excited for. I think I'm so excited for this DLC because so much fat is coming back. And the prospect of not only this fat coming back, but also like Scald and Knockoff potentially coming back via some rumors and things like that. Oh my god, I'm so excited. But I mean, Snorlax, he does so much. This thing is incredibly bulky. It's a phenomenal ghost resist into your team. It's a great Spadef wall opposite of Weezing. I've actually drafted Weezing Snorlax before and had great success with the two alongside a good Wish Passer back in like Generation 8 and 7 and things like that. Sorry for the snort. There was a guy in John's stream one time who was really upset that I was snorting a lot because it was early in the morning / late at the night. And it's like that tonight. Maybe I'm terrified he's going to show up. But Lax can do so many things, right? It can be that curse setup sweeper, whether it be with Rest Talk or Resto Chesto. You can rock out with an Assault Vest set. You can rock out with some Recycle sets with, your Gluttony, or you can rock out with Thick Fat or Immunity. Like 3 great defensive abilities, to be completely honest. But then you can go also more offensive. You can go like Choice Band or just like 4 attacks, whatever boosting item or whatever you want to be. I've seen that plenty. Typically, it's just if you're going 4 attacks, you're probably going to be Assault Vest. But man, this thing can be really strong in a lot of instances. And a lot of people really don't switch to Snorlax well. It's also very hard to OHKO in one. Really, it's going to be physically offensive fighting types are going to be able to OHKO Snorlax, but even then, if it gets up a curse, it's not really the case, and you have cool tools like Counter, too. I've definitely seen Counter Chop a Lax, put in some work before, so definitely really exciting. Except we have a pair of ice and ground types that are pretty closely related in Piloswine and Mamoswine. I mean, both of these guys are great. Piloswine is going to be a more defensive version of it. It's going to run Eviolite. It's going to be a very reliable rocker. If it keeps Knockoff, great. I don't think it will, based on how Pokemon's have been kind of trading the move. But regardless, Earthquake, Icicle Crash, Ice Shard, Stealth Rock. That's all you need to run. No more Toxic, which is a bit unfortunate. Hopefully it gets Roar back or keeps Roar. But really, all you need is that combination of moves, and you're very reliable doing what you need to do. With an Eviolite and your high HP stat, plus that, big defense boost you get, it's really solid. Base 100 attack isn't that strong, but with that stab combination, you're hitting things hard. You can be Thick Fat or Oblivious, and then that's Mamoswine, but Mamoswine is a monster, right? Instead of 100 base attack, you got 130. You got 80 speed. You got 110 HP, so you're thick as hell. And again, you can use both of those abilities, Oblivious to block into him, Thick Fat to gain ice resistance and, become neutral to fire. Be a great rocker because you force great switches and you live hits that you need to live. Or just be Life Orb and Choice Band and fucking kill everything. I've seen things like Assault Vest, I was trying to do well before too. This is a Pokemon I draft a lot. I think this is actually Kirby's kill leader, like all time. So, I'm really excited for this thing. It's a Pokemon I love drafting so much because it is so hard for opposing teams to play around, and it gives you, pretty solid positions. Now, from one evolution line to another, 2 really bulky ground types again, in Gligar and Gliscor. Now, they do function somewhat similarly. I wonder if they're going to function the same. If Gligar does lose Defog, it's going to be a little bit tough for it to do what it wanted to do. Same thing with Knockoff, and same thing with Gliscor. But typically, these things are going to be really, really obnoxious pivots. Gligar is going to be Eviolite with access to immunity. It's not going to be able to get Toxic. It's going to U-turn, knock, things like that. It's a good mid to low tier, Eviolite wall that can defog and toxic and knock, and even Sword Stance if you need it to install right. Gliscor though, this is the exact opposite. This one's, it's not the exact opposite. I'm sorry, that's not a great way of putting it. It is a more sturdy version of this. Poison Heal is such an unbelievably good ability on a Pokemon like this. You give it a Toxic Orb, and not only are you getting passive recovery every turn like a Leftovers, but you become a Status Absorber and a Knockoff Absorber, which is really, really valuable. You have a solid speed tier 95, which is great in conjunction with moves like Swords Dance if you want to go more offensive, like Taunt as a phenomenal stall breaker, as a decently fast defogger that beats most hazard setters. This thing is really, really obnoxious. But like I said, it can also go like SD plus Facade. That Poison Heal giving it that Facade boost, basically, because you're poisoned, but without all the negative side effects of being status. Like, this thing is so unbelievably reliable. It grabs great momentum in U-turn. And a big trend in Generation 8 and 9, and keep in mind, Gliscor was not in Generation 8 at all. A big trend in Gen 9 and Gen 8 is giving ground types spikes. And if they give Gliscor spikes on top of the rocks that it already has, oh baby, this thing is going to be very, very good. It is going to be even better. I'm very excited for Gliscor. Now, if it loses Defog, it loses Defog. Honestly, I'm okay with taking the trade of spikes for Defog. Personally, because, yeah. I don't know. I feel more comfortable doing so. But yeah, definitely pretty cool stuff. Then, next up... Oh, hold on. So, Mr. Craw is calling, guys. He's back. I'm so excited for Mr. Craw, a true agency staple. Really, really fun Pokemon. Even in Generation 8, right? It's not objectively incredible, right? Mostly because of the speed tier. It's very tough to justify bringing in a lot of matchups. Aqua Jet is a great tool, but it's not going to pick off everything, right? And this thing's not bulky enough to kind of make up for its really shitty speed tier, but man, is this thing strong. Adaptability, Crab Hammers, Liquidations, and Knockoffs did not have switch-ins. If you get up a Swords Dance or a Dragon Dance, you could very viably win the game, depending on, the type of team that you're playing against. And Choice Band, again, just absolutely nuke things. Now, I'm even more excited for Crawdaunt this generation is solely because of the gimmick. I mean, Terra Water or Terra Dark Crawdaunt is insane. We were looking at calcs, and this thing can, like, Oko Fizdef Clef after just, like, the smallest bit of chip damage with a Choice Band Terra Water Crab Hammer. Like, it just absolutely massacres it. There's nothing that, Clef can do to stop it. So, I'm really excited about Crawdaunt. I think it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal Pokemon. It's going to be really, really strong, and it's going to be a lot easier to draft. Again, even those Choice Band Aqua Jets with Terra Water are going to be that much stronger just because of that boost. So, I think this is going to be Mr. Craw's generation to shine in the draft league format, at least. Then, our only other Gen 3 Pokemon to talk about is another water type, but exact opposite spectrum, right? We're going to Milotic here. Again, very, very bulky Pokemon. The reason I'm mostly excited for Milotic isn't just because, like, it's very bulky. It's, the Madoshay mascot, and we love Madoshay to death and miss him dearly. But also is because what we saw in the trailer, it looked like Milotic was using Scald. Now, we have not had any confirmation on this up to this point. Of me recording this on 9/10 at 11:19 p.m., I have heard nothing about, Scald potentially being in the game, other than, like, a couple random fake leaks that, definitely aren't real. But it definitely could come back, and I'm really leaning on the side that it will, and I really hope it does, because the biggest issue I have with Gen 9, and for those of you who know me, like, outside of YouTube and stuff like that, Gen 9 is not my favorite metagame, like, competitively. It's not. It's been great for content. I know a lot of people really enjoy seeing, like, the spectacle of Terra and, like, all these really fast-paced games. I think it's a very unbalanced meta, and I actually don't enjoy it very much right now. And I think something that would really help is the reemergence of other playstyles, balance and semi-stall and stall coming back in even more hyper-offense teams to kind of counteract a lot of those balance teams and things like that. I think that those playstyles are really lacking in Gen 9 right now, and a move like Scald would, pay huge dividends to, bring those kinds of playstyles back and, making more Pokemon and more team styles more viable would make the game more interesting. I don't know. I don't think of long games as bad. I think a long game is bad if nobody's making progress and nobody's playing well, not explaining the thought process well and things like that. But I think, like, that really long chess match that some balance v balance games can have is a really interesting thing to, check out and things like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Then we have the Gen 4 starters. We're really going to go through these guys. First up is Torterra. Really solid low tier rocker. You could also like rock polish Sweep before. I don't think it's going to be able to this gen because he took rock polish off of anything that wasn't like a rock. But Torterra, I could see maybe getting it. Maybe they'll give it Shell Smash finally because he's a turtle Pokemon. And if they give him Shell Smash, that would make him really, really cool. It's much better than rock polish Swords Dance. But it can also Swords Dance. It's very bulky. It Leech Seed, Stealth Rocks. Honestly, as a low tier ground, very, very solid Pokemon. Then we have Infernape, a Pokemon I love using in draft. I absolutely love using Infernape in draft just because of how versatile it is, physically, offensively, especially offensively, mix. I've even seen, obviously, set up on both sides in like Swords Dance, Bulk Up, and Nasty Plot. You can also like Flame Charge up, to get a little bit faster, which is pretty cool. This thing with Terra seems really, really fun. And another cool thing about Infernape is like the defensive aspect of it. It doesn't seem like it, but there are certain matchups where you're playing a Weavile or a Scizor and you need a defensive Infernape to, slack off and Will-O-Wisp and you turn around and be annoying. You can also, very viably run like bulky setup sets and things like that. You have great priority, you're a great rocker. Like this Pokemon's really fun to use. If you know what you're doing and you're not just spamming Scarf every week, which Scarf is good and you're probably going to bring it a few times, more than a few, but I think it's something important to let, to keep in mind. Next up, we have Empoleon. Empoleon, it's interesting because if Skull comes back, Empoleon is good again. Skull doesn't come back, Empoleon sucks. I'm sorry, because it's going to lose Knockoff, it's going to lose Toxic. Right, and those are two big aspects of Empoleon's pull, only behind Scald. And if it loses Scald, it becomes very passive like a lot of other waters, and I don't like that, and I really hope it doesn't, come down to that. It also could lose Defog potentially, because Defog isn't really a TM or a tutor. It doesn't learn it via level up, so that's another really big aspect of Empoleon's pull. Otherwise, Water Steel is a great defensive typing, so really, really solid. Next up, we have Shaymin here. This Pokemon is coming actually, pretty soon here, and I don't know, I love Shaymin. I know a lot of people are a little bit iffy on Shaymin on whether or not it's actually good or not. Some people think it's a little bit passive, some people don't like the synthesis as its recovery, but I love like Leech Sheeting Shaymins. Seed Flare plus Earth Power is like very hard for a lot of teams to switch into, and then you put in like accent coverage moves like Dazzling Gleam and Air Slash and Psychic and things like that. This thing can be really annoying. I've even seen SD sets do really well. I think like with Terra, SD sets could be really cool, like Terra Ground or Fire, with like Seed Bomb plus, I have no idea. Seed Bomb plus either Terra Blast, Fire, or Ground on the physical side could be pretty cool. Healing Wish is a great aspect of this, and this is an amazing status absorber. With Nat Cure, Tear Gas typing, it massacres any bulky water to ever exist. It's again, just an incredible Pokemon. I love Shaymin so much. I think a lot of people give it too much shit for really no reason, and I'm personally really excited to use it this gen. And we have Big Conk. I wonder if this thing will keep Defog. I always wondered how in Gen 8 this thing got Defog. It just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense at all. Maybe just swings the big cinder blocks around and, and it gets rid of them. I don't know, but really, what you're using Conk for is to click buttons. So 140 base attack with that Guts ability. You're clicking Close Combat, Mach Punch, and Facade. You have good coverage moves for the Pokemon you need to hit. Before you had Knock. I don't know if you're going to keep Knock on this thing. If it does, amazing. If not, it might struggle with Ghost a little bit. Does it get another Dark move? Gets Payback, which isn't the worst on a Pokemon this slow. And then Ghost, it gets nothing. So that's something to keep in mind, but you have Elemental Punches and Poison Jab, and that's another thing to keep in mind. Is a lot of people think, oh, Conk uses Guts, but I can very viably use Sheer Force and Iron Fist too. 3 incredible offensive abilities. You just see Guts more often because it's pretty broken on a Pokemon like this. I love using Conk. It is a button clicker. And if you get it with good momentum and you find opportunities to get in and you aren't like, I need to use Trick Room, it's going to do really good for you. So that's definitely really exciting. Then we have Chandelure, really fun Ghost Fire type. I think with Terra, this thing can be really, really strong. Scarf sets are going to go crazy with Terra. Ghost Fire is just obviously an incredible offensive type, and we've seen with Cerulege and even Hisuian and Typhlosion to an extent, and especially with Skeletor, just very hard to switch into. This is just a little bit stronger and more frail version of that. Mienshao, shouts to Kaz, the greatest Pokemon of all time, and a big Mienshao here, but it has the best ability in the game, so, obviously, right? Regenerator, this thing is a great, great pivot, whether it be with a Scarf or an Assault Vest, or even just like as a Life Orb Breaker, coming in, not taking any damage really, because it just, regens off the health that it took from the Life Orb. So I think it's a really cool aspect of Mienshao. I'm really excited for this thing to come back. We got a couple regen. Now we can really get some regen cores going, and I think Mienshao is a great piece of those because it's a more offensive version of that, and has a really solid speed tier. So unless you're Torn, you typically don't have a great speed tier with regen mons. Then we have Mandibuzz. We're talk about bulky thick heads, man. This thing is going to be really solid, provided it keeps knockoff. If it doesn't keep knockoff and defog, I think it's very mediocre, because it's already losing toxic, which makes it a little bit passive. But between, like, you know, defog and foul play and U-turn and roost, it's going to be really annoying. As per usual, it does miss that toxic addition, because now things don't even have to worry about it. That's why I really wanted to keep knockoffs to at least get rid of items, but you know, you win some, you lose some. Obviously, Brave Bird's a strong stat move too, so you can click Brave Bird and still do decent amounts of damage to things, which is a cool aspect of this. Next up, thinking of Matt Shaymin, all of his mons are coming back. Maybe he needs to come back too. I don't know, maybe yell at Matt. Maybe he'll come back one day. I miss Matt. But he has, we have Vikavolt coming back. In my opinion, the best website are coming back. I know we got a few of them coming. I think Ariados and Rabambi for sure. I want to say there's another web setter coming back as well as DLC, but I think this Pokemon is honestly probably the best web setter in the format. To me, personally, when you take into account its price point, this thing's very bulky when invested into, incredibly strong. Electric Bug plus Grass coverage is insanely hard to switch into. It gets reliable recovery and roost. I mean, this thing is really obnoxious for a lot of teams to deal with offensively, like, you know, trying to break through this defensive base, or even like defensively. How are you going to check this thing when it has 145 special attack? It clicks Bug Buzz and gets Throat Spray boosted at +1. It could also agility up and be annoying, or it could just be bulky 3 attacks roost and rip through teams. This thing's gonna be really cool, especially with Terra. I think it's gonna be really solid. And Bug Electric with Levitate is pretty cool. Then lastly, speaking of broken with Terra, this Pokemon is gonna be insane. Big Kommo-o. This thing with either Terra Normal, Poison, or Steel is going to be very hard for teams to deal with. I think Gligar and Soul Terra Normal sets are going to be really good. With Boom Burst, I think Terra Poison and, Terra Poison, Terra Fire, and Terra Steel are going to be really solid in, like, DD and Swords Dance sets. This thing is very versatile, though. People think of this as, like, a setup win con all the time, whether with Gligar Soul or Dragon Dance, but outside of that, it can just be offensive and click buttons. I've seen AV Kommo-o do work. It can be a great Stealth Rocker, or it can be Iron Defense Body Press and be physically defensive as all hell with, you know, like maybe like Dragon Tail, like Iron Defense, Body Press, Dragon Tail, and then in the past typically you'd run like Toxic or something like that, but you're not going to get that anymore. Maybe you run Poison Jab, maybe you end up running, yeah, I guess it really would just be Poison Jab, right? Iron Head, maybe. It depends on the fairy, right? It depends on the matchup. But man, this thing can be really annoying, and I think if this thing's allowed to tear in a league that you're in, you should probably try it out. I think it's going to be really cool. But yeah, that's going to be kind of the list of the Pokemon I'm most excited to see. Let me know your top 3 Pokemon that you're most excited to see come back in the Teal Mask DLC in the comments below. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.